dive into one of my favorite topics.
Let's do it.
I want to talk about ascension and enlightenment and talk about what I think is missing in today's culture and the teachings with all the teachers and the yoga and the breath work and all the meditation and all this stuff.
Right.
And share my experience. I guess when I was about 23, I started really diving into Taoism and Chinese medicine and health. And through my own experience, I feel like we can reach enlightenment and ascension and expand the kundalini energy with just by understanding the body. It's like there's all this stuff about the mind, which is great, but it's just one aspect of how to get to the higher states of consciousness.
Right, yeah.
So it's like what I've experienced is when we get our temple in complete harmony and we get it into a state to where it expands the soul energy, we can become enlightened. So our body is like it's like a conduit, and it's a temple that's connected to source, right? And we can tune that into a frequency where it just downloads source energy and where it expands the soul energy within the body. So it's like we have forces in this world that are suppressing us, our ascension and our human potential. So if we learn to navigate through the world in such a way where we don't eat the poison and we don't take the vaccines and we start to drink spring water and we get out and get sunlight and breathe fresh air, and it's like we connect with nature and we feed on the four elements, our body starts to become a healthy vessel, and then it's like our soul automatically starts to expand and we start to evolve because our body is healthy.
Yeah, it just makes sense that the most natural way of being is the healthiest. I mean, I read an article the other day that just being the microbes in dirt are just so good for your immune system, just like literally playing in dirt. And it just makes sense. Like that's natural, to be outside, to sit on the ground, to have your feet on the ground and get that those positive electrons and everything that come up from the sun from that. So it just makes total sense, the grounding that comes from that, and to have a relationship with the planet. I mean, it's just because we have cars and tall buildings, I don't feel like we're more enlightened or more evolved than the Native Americans who lived here before us. I mean, they obviously had a connection with the planet that we don't have, so it makes sense to just, eating natural foods, whole foods, raw organic foods, the way that nature intended them to be, as opposed to even like cooked up. We know so much nutrients is lost just in the cooking process of, cooking things.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people, there's kind of this big movement with raw foods and raw veganism that you're going to become enlightened and get more spiritual through the raw foods, but if you understand Chinese medicine, that's missing the yang energy. It's missing the masculine and the fire. So it's like when we eat raw and cooked foods, that's more of a balance, and really, and like the kundalini energy and the expansion of the soul is balancing the masculine and feminine, right? That's like when you have sex with a woman, like you're exchanging energy, and your soul is actually expanding through tantra when you're making love, especially if you know how to like build the energy rather than just spend it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like balancing the masculine and feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. When it's that more natural, like I said, love, as opposed to just getting down and doing the dirty. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like if you're blowing your load in the toilet, you're just wasting your energy.
Yeah, I mean that semen is literally life-giving seeds. I mean I don't think there can be much more that's more potent energy than what's in that little, couple drops what you got there. I mean, like that's it, life-giving energy, life force. I mean, that's super incredible.
It's like liquid consciousness.
Yeah, so it makes sense to just sit there and watch, pornographic videos based on physical. It's just physical sex without the love that, and then spilling your seed. I mean, I think that's why you have all the preachers and the Catholic people and everybody else who practice abstinence. That is how probably most of our enlightened beings got there, was refrain from that sex and keep that seed in and be pure beings. When you look at children, I work with children a lot, and they almost never. They never talk about sex or see people as sexual objects. I mean, they're a kid, and you're another kid. You want to play, gender aside, race aside, all that stuff doesn't matter. It's just like you're another being I want to play with. And I think being, to me, really being enlightened is as seeing other beings as that, like other beings to play with, other beings to like do fun things with, as opposed to how can I manipulate that person to get what I want or have sex with me or whatever it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree with you on that, and just the natural way of being and eating and just living life on this planet has just we've got so far from that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's like white tantra when people are abstinent, but I think that's what it's called. But anyway, like I think there's another level you can take it to where you can actually use sex to build your energy rather than to not have sex at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like sex is a part of it. But when it comes to the body, like when you're heavy and you're sick and you're toxic, that's literally like putting a filter over your consciousness, and the perception of the world is like filtered.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you're healthy and you clean, you like start to download source energy.
Yes, absolutely.
And like the enlightenment process is like becoming more light, and we can do that through the expansion of the soul energy within the body. And like one of the ways we can do that is, first of all, eat natural food, and get away from the shit food, obviously. Stay away from like wheat products, table salt. We want good salt for sure.
What do you? I always like pink Himalayan salt. Is that?
Yeah.
Or sea salt in general. That's usually the things that I use.
Yeah, rock salts or sea salts, any one of those, and you can always mix it up because they have different minerals, right? And we want to get like different minerals from different salts.
Mm-hmm.
Salt is like electricity for our body. So it connects all the cells.
Right. Yeah, I often think, I'm seeing this crystal right here, and I often have thought like our bodies, you know, basically being mostly made of water, and water is a crystalline structure, you know, that we want to get our body into that prism state. It's almost like every single time you eat a bad chemical or something toxic, or even feel a certain negativity or emotion, it's almost like we put little black spots in these prisms that our bodies are made out of, and then so when we shine light through it, it doesn't shine that perfectly beautiful rainbow.
Right.
It's not shining that, it's shining little fractures of light and things like that. But when we get to the point where we're like this and we're clean, mind, body, and soul, when we're eating the right foods, when we're at least experiencing sex in a positive, more loving, harmonious way, when we're living more natural, our body becomes more like this crystal and more like a prism state. And even the word, you know, crystal and Christ and Krishna, I think, are all probably derived from the same root words. But I think that's what it is. We're crystallizing our own water structure in our body, becoming Christos or Christ ourselves.
Becoming crystalline.
Becoming crystalline, yeah, exactly. As we, I mean, because even Christ quoted saying, like, when you lust over a person, it's like you actually did it, you know? Like, what you think about, your body doesn't know, your brain doesn't know the difference. What you think about or what you do. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, watching scary movies even sometimes can put us in a fear-based state, you know, where people are killing people. Like you are watching, my dad watches a lot of war movies all the time, so I feel like he has a lot of health issues, and I feel like that's because his body's at war with each other, you know what I mean? Like, dude, you watch war all day, so your cells have been literally in competition and warring with each other, so that, you know, we've created chaos in the system.
Right.
And we're trying to create peace and harmony and a crystalline structure, and so, yeah, eating healthy and meditation and staying calm and relaxed and taking deep breaths, I think all of those things are great to get back to that.
Yeah, speaking of movies and television, it's like we're absorbing things into our subconscious mind, and then our subconscious thinks this is our environment, so it will create that. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like if we see war, it's like, oh, this is a war environment, so our body will adapt to a war environment.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, your brain doesn't know the difference, and so my girlfriend gets mad at me all the time because I won't watch certain things on television, you know, and she's like, I just want to watch scary movies, and I was like, I just can't do it, and I didn't watch scary movies as a little kid because I just felt like something was wrong about it. I didn't like being in that fear-based state. I didn't like watching scary movies, and I knew there was something that it was bigger, and I finally realized, like, when your body's in that state, when you feel fear, when you think something's out to get you, that plays with your subconscious, you know, that somebody's out there trying to get you, someone's trying to steal from you, someone's trying to take from you or hurt you, and it's just like watching the news and watching these bad things that are happening constantly just push you to think and feel a certain way towards the world, when my reality is I think the world's a loving world, a beautiful world, and I think, you know, I'm going to go out there and meet the best people and run into the best circumstances and events. But if I constantly watch things on TV and my brain can't determine whether that's true or not, I feel like that starts to be, you know, fade into my reality. They don't call it programs for nothing. Right. You know what I mean? They're programming you to think a certain way, and I feel like I stopped watching television over a decade ago, and I mean, that was definitely a big waking up moment and becoming more conscious and aware. Realizing that it's kind of like you were saying earlier, when you eat these chemical-induced foods and you stop doing it, you start to come out of this, you know, drug-induced effect. It's almost like the same thing with television. Once I stopped watching it, I realized, like, oh my God, how much was I, you know, just programmed to buy a certain kind of brand or you know, a certain type of clothes or, you know, or television or whatever it was. You know, I was just like, I felt so more sovereign. Like I didn't, or sports especially. I think sports are great, but to the extent at which we watch them and get into them, and it's just a little too much and pay these people. I mean, the reason why they're getting paid is so many people are paying attention to it. Like, it's a big deal.
Right.
Just throwing football around, it's like, it's great, it's beautiful. You know, baseball integrated segregation, you know, it helped with that. You know, that's a beautiful thing, but, you know, the overall, how much importance it is just over the top. And so I just realized, like, I was losing my sanity cheering for certain teams, you know, like I'd be upset. I realized I was like literally upset that a team lost, not just for the day, but for weeks or months afterwards, being like, I can't believe we lost that game 6 months ago. And you're like, I thought, why am I upset about a football game we lost 6 months ago, you know?
Right. Well, it's like all these things are kind of here to keep us focused on other things, but it's like when we cut out the crappy television, the tele vision, with the channels coming down, with the programming, and we stop eating the shitty food, it's like we start to face reality as it is, and we start to feel our soul, and we become in touch with what's real, and sometimes that's hard for people, so they'd rather just stay blinded by all the distractions.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like when we cut out all the garbage, I feel like that's when we can really start to manifest what we want, because our focus changes, and we can focus on other things, on what we want, and we can have a better life because of getting rid of the crap and getting clean and healthy.
Yeah.
And it's like taking the lenses off of our consciousness to see the world the way it really is.
It's like that movie They Live. You ever seen that one?
Man, I've heard 1,000 people say it.
He buys those sunglasses, and he just, everything he looks at is different. I mean, he looks at money and it says this is your God on it, and he looks at advertising and it's just like sleep, you know, and all these things. It's just like, I feel like that's exactly what that metaphorically is. He was able to wake up. It was through a device, but we can do it through, you know, like you said, eating healthy, getting that body physically right, getting a strong core, you know, tightening ourselves up, being disciplined. I mean, there's so many things. There's not, like you said, there's not one way to lighten it. One thing, I was at Yogananda's Lake Shrine Temple in L.A., or part of Gandhi's ashes are buried, so there's a lot of stuff about him there. And he, it said about him that he didn't even talk on Monday. Just his own personal discipline.
I do that every week.
Do you? I didn't know you did that. You have a day that you don't talk to anybody?
Pretty much, I have about one day where I do nothing. I might go to the gym, eat food, and just have a very simple day, get out in the sunlight, and I don't talk for a whole day.
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, it's like resetting the mind.
Yeah, I feel like that's an incredible practice. Good for you. I had never actually met anyone who did it. It's funny, I just brought it up to you. Yeah, you did it, but yeah.
I'd do it 4 days a week if I could.
He said he would only write notes to people. I mean, obviously he was a big figure, so there were a lot of people trying to come in contact with him and talk to him. So, but on Mondays he would write notes to people or just body language, but he just wouldn't talk for his own discipline. He was trying to listen more and stuff like that.
It's interesting too when you do that. You can really start to feel people, and you can feel everything around you. When you shut your mouth, it's like you begin to feel everything.
Right.
So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely someone who tends to be more quiet and to themselves.
You're a feeler.
I mean, when we talk about fun things, I get excited. I'm not gonna lie, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think all of those things, you know, there's not one way to enlightenment. There's so many great things that can help you, and definitely eating is one of eating healthy and getting rid of those toxic, not just foods but environments. You know, like workplaces, people in your life, getting rid of all those things that people who criticize you all the time or who put you down or say you're not good enough. I mean, and part of that is our reflection, and we think these things about ourselves, so we find those people out in the universe who basically, you're no good, you're not worth anything. But when we change our mind about ourselves, then we can change our environment. So, but for me, I know I just knew one day that I was no longer going to live in Atlanta. I was no longer going to be able to say that because I would constantly go back to the bar system and probably try to make money off that. It was too easy. So I had to remove myself from that environment completely, go to a whole nother state, and start a whole nother job.
Yeah.
And it made the difference. But that was one of those things again that was just like helped clear me out. It was a whole new way, a reset.
Right.
A reset of living, and I feel like a lot of people are doing that. You see that all over Instagram and social media. People buying up buses and doing, living up a whole new life and changing their work and doing their own yoga things online. I mean,
it's like getting rid of everything.
Yeah.
And then it creates a void for a new life to emerge.
And that's what we all want, right? And nobody wants to. I mean, there's not a lot of people who there's probably a small percentage, less than 1%, who wants the world to stay how it is, But I think most of us, that's what we want. We want a new world. We want a new way of living. We want something where we're sovereign of our own lives, and that we don't have to punch some clock for somebody else. I mean, I think that's what all this is about for a lot of people, is making stuff that you love, that you're passionate about, that you can be successful about too. So.
Yeah, that's why I was, and still am, I'm so passionate about health. It's like, it really came down to freedom for me. It's like, when you're healthy, I feel more free. I feel better. So and my mind works better, so I can create a better life that's more free from the systems that tend to tie us down.
Right.
And it's like, when it comes to the body, Daniel Vitalis talks about when we have a fish in a cage or a fish tank, it's like you feed it food and it has water and it's in this ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how humans are living right now.
Right.
With the farmers. We're in an ecosystem where we're living on fake lights, shitty drinking water, shitty food, and the air we breathe is a little bit polluted sometimes. But it's like, if we can replace those 4 elements, because that's what feeds our body and our soul, is earth, water, air, fire. So if we eat good food and we drink water, I drink water from springs, and my body doesn't want anything else. So you can drink wild spring water. If you go to findaspring.com, you can find a spring anywhere in the world that's close to you.
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's cool.
And breathe fresh air and get sunlight. It's really that simple. It's like eating the 4 elements in a natural way. So it's really just connecting with nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to that. The most natural way is really, honestly, probably the best way to be about everything. It just seems over and over again. Everything I look at in my own life, it makes the most sense intuitively,
Yeah.
And it feels the best too, honestly.